Welcome to 247 Real Talk. I'm your host, Julian Perry. It's a pleasure to be here with you once again for another episode of the 247 Real Talk podcast. I'm thankful for all of you. Thank you for all the messages I continue to receive of support as people join the podcast. New subscribers, I thank you. Existing loyal subscribers, I thank you. And even saying thank you to those who've decided to move on to a different podcast, because I know that I have heard conflicting stories of people who want me to continue or go back to where I was with the whole political atmosphere and that conversation, and I won't. We need too much feel good in a time like this to go back to that. So sit back and relax, and I'm going to come back and we're going to chat a little bit about you, your purpose, and a message to those who have reached out to me and said, hey, what am I supposed to do? I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back and I'm here to have a short conversation with you, as I always start my episodes these days, because I realize I never want to lose track of who I am and whose I am. So may the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in His sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. This week I'm going to be crafting my message to you on yet another quote received from my pastor by someone by the name of Vex King. I never heard of him, but the quote says, "You are the prayer your ancestors whispered into the wind. Don't dim yourself now. They survived too much for you to hide your light from the world." Let me read that to you again. I want you to sit and think about it. Listen to my words. You are the prayer your ancestors whispered into the wind. Don't dim yourself now. They survived too much for you to hide your light from the world. Now, I thought about this in the realm of many things. Part of it, yes, being political, but that's not the part we'll focus on. The only piece of that I will touch on is what came to mind is I heard of an executive order that was signed in the last week that removed the Martin Luther King birthday and some other black leaders' birthday or whatever, or anniversary from the days that national parks would allow free access. And I thought about this in a bigger picture on what it means to many people out there who are feeling oppressed, who are struggling, who are angry. The bottom line is that the world is changing. The bottom line is that we have to define our purpose in a world that has become chaotic. And many people say to me, we elected officials to do the work, to help us monetarily, to help us with health care and all these things. And there they are making their big money. There was a government shutdown and they were getting paid. I don't know what to do. And so many people have gone into the shadows, have decided to close their worlds, to block out not just the noise, but even the existence of fellow strugglers or people who are struggling around them. And they've gone into such a survival mode that they've lost track that they were not, you were not, I was not, your children were not, your parents, your siblings. Nobody was born into this world by chance or without purpose. If you believe that, then this is the wrong show for you. Everything I say to you, every conversation we have is based on the premise that we understand who we are and whose we are. We look at history and understand that our lives are better because someone sacrificed. And when someone that we know or someone in our ancestry sacrificed, they prayed that their mission, what they started, will continue. They prayed for someone who would take up what they were not able to finish or continue the next phase after God said to them, job well done. Your time here is over. End of duty. End of tour. They whispered prayers to God. They whispered prayers to our Creator. And what they whispered for is you and me. They whispered for the next generation to continue climbing upward, to keep hope alive, to keep faith alive, to keep unity alive, to keep our existence and who we are and our history alive. You don't need to defy what has happened. You need to create new ways to make sure that who we are, where we came from, and where we're going is preserved. Our past preserved in history, not hidden by someone who chooses to obliterate our existence or the truth of our existence, until we become mere souls walking around who seem to have manifested from nowhere and are going nowhere. We have an opportunity in this time when the world seems to be oppressing us, when it's easy to get lost in the pain and the sorrow and the fatigue and the frustration, when it's easy to throw our hands up and say, God, I've done all that I could do. Now I'm just going to do it for myself. When it's easy to go into some kind of rationalization that maybe we were not chosen for anything, so we can let someone else carry on the fight, because what can we do? There's a whole lot of people who live their lives on either I can't do anything, I couldn't have done anything, or what can I do, without ever exploring those things and finding the truth. I've said to you before in a previous episode that for people like myself, people from the Caribbean, even people in this country, when we lose someone in life, someone who meant something to us, anyone, we lay them to rest, and above their space in the ground, ashes to ash, dust to dust, we place a tombstone in their memory. And the tombstone usually says sunrise and sunset. And in between the sunrise and the sunset, there's a dash. And this right here is that dash. This conversation, each day we wake up, is that dash. We cannot go through life and have someone look at that dash, and the only thing they can recall from us is us saying, what could I have done? What can I do? What will I do? You and I were whispered into existence. Whispered by our parents who longed to have us. And whispered and blown into creation by our Creator who has a purpose for us. All the distractions of life are there for a reason. They are there for Him to see, our Creator, what decisions we make. What do we do with the time He gives us? What do we do with the purpose? And we know what our purpose is. Even if we're not 100% sure, we all get an urge at some point in our life to do something righteous. Many of us ignore it. Why? It's too hard. It seems impossible. I often dream about things I want to do in my retirement. And in dreaming, it would say, I would go on the internet, like, I want to do RVing with my wife, my kids, my family, travel a country, go different places. Maybe I'll bump into you and have a conversation about who we are, whose we are, and the differences we've made in this world. And in doing that, I look at how would we travel in this comfort? What would I like? I don't want to be in the vehicle in front, maybe the family in the back, no connection. So I've settled on, I want what they call a motorhome. But a sizable one that can hold 4 of us, and we can all be together as I'm driving like a big rig in the front. And they're not cheap. You can get some used ones, which I'm concerned about, but they're not cheap. And I'm saying that container, let's call it a motorhome for a moment. That container is something mechanical and material, but what will be inside is a family living together, bonding together, creating memories together, and doing outreach for others. And getting that kind of motorhome seems impossible right now. I can't afford it. But I said, you know what? I'm not going to say I can't afford it. What I want to do if I get the opportunity, if it is my purpose, is to do travel and take my podcast maybe on the road. Maybe meet some of you across the country who support me, who want to have a conversation in person, who are too shy, but maybe you'll come chat with me face to face. Or maybe I'll get a new audience who will want to listen to the messages, and I'll get the opportunity to do in-person outreach and give and lift people up. Maybe I'll get the opportunity to be a part of a bigger movement that effects change, that brings righteousness and hope when the world around us wants to crush us into oblivion. And for that to happen, somehow that motorhome would have to manifest itself. So I've got two options. I've got this urge to help, to give back, to counsel, to lift, to converse, to provide hope for unity. And maybe it's not the motorhome. Maybe it's something else. I don't know, but I'm going to walk in the direction of my purpose. That voice that said 5 years ago to create this podcast. That voice that tells me to go on with this podcast each and every day, even though my numbers should be subscribers should be probably in the 10 or 20,000. I've only got a few thousand. The things that are there in your face to discourage you. I remember reading, different Bible verses. We have, people from history in the Bible who were chosen to be kings, and yet they were shepherds. And they continued along their journey, knowing that there was a bigger purpose that they had to fulfill. But there's a time and place for everything. In the meantime, you've got to live your truth. In the meantime, you've got to stand up. I don't just take my inspiration from my spiritual background. I also take it from people I've encountered along this journey. From people I've mentioned to you who continue to pray for me. I often reference my brother and friend Montanya Gladden because I look at him and he tells me I inspire him, but he inspires me. He inspires me because he chose a road of activism and he sticks to it. He sticks to it. He sticks to a reality when the world wants to drown out voices like his. And he's exactly what I'm talking about. The example of the fact that his parents were activists and they whispered him to continue their movement. And he is here fighting hard to whisper the next generation into reality. You have a bigger purpose than getting up every morning and going through the paces and going to sleep at night. You have a bigger purpose than just struggling for survival and having to distract you so much that you don't realize your own value. You have a bigger purpose than getting so caught up in the noise around you that's purposely created to distract you that you don't take quiet moments to self-reflect and to listen to the voice and recognize who you are, whose you are, and why you are here. And you have probably heard your purpose being repeated to you over and over again, either in that inner voice or to with things that have happened around you that you continue to ignore or not pay attention to. None of us is here just because. We're all a tapestry that make up the quilt. I often refer people to a book that I read and I love. It's called The 5 People We Meet in Heaven. The significance of that book is how 5 lives across the world were ultimately tied together. Their purpose, what they did in the United States, somehow through something affected someone in Germany and a soldier in the war and all these things that we don't understand. We are individuals and we don't understand the global picture, and we're not supposed to, because we are not him. We are his, our creators. But I promise you, you weren't just here to struggle and go through life. And yes, even if you're making memories, to live isolated where you don't give back. Maybe your purpose is not one of a larger magnitude. Maybe your purpose is to help someone who has a bigger purpose, who was chosen for a bigger purpose, fulfill that purpose. Maybe something you do saves the life of someone, and that is supposed to be part of their journey for their destination, their chosen purpose. And your purpose was to fuel their journey. Pay attention to the opportunities to help. Pay attention to the opportunities to make a difference. Take the time to listen, not disregard people. I live in New York, and many times when I drive into New York City or into the boroughs, you often stop at a street light, and there may be someone who comes up to you, and someone who's begging. I hate using that word, but begging for money. Some of them are just begging, but some of them have a story they want to tell you. Some stories are true, some are not. But for you to determine or even get an inkling of what your purpose is in that meeting requires you to listen. Because just maybe, the person who's speaking to you through your glass that looks bad and probably smells bad and probably you're in a neighborhood that is scary, and I'm not telling you to put yourself in danger because you also have common sense, but I'm saying that person could just be someone along your journey where their purpose is not part of your purpose. Or it could be someone who's down on their luck and you happen to be walking around, you just played the lotto card and you won a bunch of money and you got $500 in your pocket and you have no change, and maybe you give them a 20. And maybe that 20 and they end up taking it to buy food. And maybe someone sees them and says, hey guy, I can help you, I got some clothes at home. And maybe someone gives them a shower, a meal. And maybe someone inspires him to do something, and 10 years later you see that same person, clean cut, well dressed, doing something to give back to the community. And you were part of that journey. I know that seems far-fetched, but the world is full of stories like that. Take the time to listen. Understand that each encounter has meaning. One may have more meaning than the other, but many things and most things I believe through life are not just by happenstance. You have a purpose, I have a purpose. The question is, are we going to listen to our purpose that was brought alive by those who whispered us into existence and do what we were called to do? I'll read it to you again. By Vex King. You are the prayer your ancestors whispered into the wind. Don't dim yourself now. They survived too much for you to hide your light, your bright light, your meaningful light, your light that you may not have discovered yet, but if you take the time to listen, to use your heart for the purpose it was meant, you will. Don't hide your light from the world. It is too important to who we are and whose we are. My Savior, look with favor upon me, your servant. Keep me in the fear of you. Humble me so that you can lift me up. Empty me so that you can fill me with good things. With Mary, I wait for what has been promised. I wait for tables to be turned and power to shift. I wait for new life and new world. I pray for an open heart and unblocked ears, that I may hear the voices of the poor and oppressed, and act to share their struggle for justice. Increase my helpfulness. Increase my good deeds. Increase the rays of light in my heart. Increase my activities for justice. Bind me to all who trust in your promises, so that together with Mary and your faithful people, my spirit will rejoice in you, and my soul delight to declare your glory. Remember, the whisper that once came before you is now your light to shine on this world. Until the next time, please take care of yourselves and each other.